Ready to roll. Let's do it.
Yeah, man. Joe Sena is the CEO of Spartan and a friend of the show. Joe Sena, welcome back.
Thanks for having me, pal. I love hanging out with you.
It's always a pleasure, man. Where are you at right now?
I am in Florida, wishing I was on the mountain in Vermont. I could use a little bit of time up on Shrek's cabin.
You still have a place down there?
We do. Everybody listening to this is invited. Anybody can come to the farm anytime. You're just going to be asked to do some work. End of June, last 2 weeks of June, we got death. I guess we can call it Death Week, like Shark Week. We got Death Camp. We've got Death Mountain Climbing. We got Death Race. We got Stairway to Sparta. Everything death related.
Joe, I would love to make Death Week a thing.
Let's
Um,
do it. Let's do it.
I'm not even joking. We can start it with the funeral, and
Yeah.
your fat dies today, and then we could live stream something every night or once, like for an hour every day or something.
Come to the farm. You're welcome.
Um,
I've got the kids coming out, like we're torturing kids, then we're torturing adults. I've got people coming out that think like a lot of people coming out that think we're doing like a biohacking conference. They have no idea they're gonna get roped into this thing and tortured. It's gonna be awesome.
you're bringing some tech bros out there with their sweater vests and
Yes. Yes.
how's that kid that I remember there's some like a kid version of Death Week or Death Camp of the Death Race rather. Is that still going on every year?
It is. It is. And the other thing we got, I didn't tell you about, was I hooked up with this tech billionaire that built an online school. You do 2 hours a day. You don't have to go to school. You can go 2 hours a day, and they're getting better results from the kids in 2 hours than 8+ hours at school. Now, you and I and anybody listening, I still want kids to go to school. I want them to, mix it up with other kids because kids live on screens these days. But what I did was I said, could you do me a favor? Could we set up just for the summer this 2 hour version? Because apparently it jumps your kid 2 levels. They get better AP scores, they get better SAT scores, everything is better. So we're gonna run our children and some friends and family through it this summer. If you've got anybody out there with kids, it's K through 12, and they want to level up and do this 2 hour a day. They got to commit to it every single day during the summer. It's a game changer. So yes, we have Death Camp going on. I've also got this summer school thing going on. I've got Death Race going on. I got Stairway to Sparta, 24 hours going up and down the stone stairs on the mountain. I've got a hurricane heat going on. I've got this biotech conference, which is really, it's just a disguise. It's really Death Race. So yeah, you can come out.
Okay, there's a ton to unpack from just that. So the main reason we were going to talk today was you sent me something about the summer school and I was interested about it. So I just wanted to, so let's start with summer school, but I want to get back to all that other stuff. So summer school, it's like a Spartan summer school, 2 hours a day, 7 days a week.
7 days a week. There's no days off with me.
What about when your wife's like, "Hey Joe, I want to go to Cabo for the weekend." Like kids can't do it this weekend.
My wife has tried that for 20 years. We've been together, and pretty much the answer is always no. And if it's yes, then we just incorporate work in it. We work out. We like. I don't really take vacations. I
It's
don't believe
it's
it.
hard it's hard to explain to especially people we love. Like I don't want a vacation from this. This is what I like doing. Like I have less fun out on the beach than I would here doing work.
I'm with you 1,000%, and I'm so glad there's other people on the planet that agree with me.
I watch I just saw some random thing with Tom Cruise the other day. And he's like, "No, I like working hard. Like it's part of it's I enjoy it. Like I don't want to take a vacation from what I enjoy doing."
1,000%. By the way, the couch feels so much better when you're exhausted,
When
right?
you yeah, you have a good hard workout during the day and you collapse into that bed, you kind of some people don't like saying you earned it, but man, it you sleep sweeter.
You sleep sweeter. No doubt about it. You got to earn everything in your life.
Okay, so tell me more about the Spartan School. 2 hours a day. It's all
It's
these
a
age.
2 hour.
What are they doing for 2 hours?
They're gonna knock out their subjects. They're gonna make a commitment to getting a little workout done. This is not death camp, right? I'm not expecting 8-10 hours. This is just to level kids up, because most kids in this new world are just gonna live on their device. They're gonna waste the summer away. They're not gonna get shit done, and anytime I think of something that I want for my kids, I believe this would be good for all kids. Now, look, now there's some kids out there that maybe they're going to be doing a ton of work on their sport. Maybe they're already crushing school. Maybe they need that time off, but most kids need this. We're not making a dime on it. This is just simply a pass through from this company that has cracked the code on 2-hour learning. We're passing it through. We asked them to edit it for us and make it a summer school, because the problem they're having is they're going into really, really high level schools and saying, look, we got this system. We've proven it. We're putting kids at Stanford University with 2 hours a day. They have more time to learn life skills. They have more time to be an entrepreneur. The kids, they have more time to do their sport, and they're crushing their academics. The schools are giving them the Heisman because the schools are like, they've got teachers, they've got teacher unions, they've got infrastructure. They're like, we don't want this. So I said to this founder, I said, listen, you're doing it all wrong. If I were you, let's start with summer school. If it goes well, there's a chance that I would then ask 2 of my children to actually not go to school next year. That, like, let's just do this. We'll have more time. My son loves his little business, loves it. He'll have more time for his business. He'll have more time for wrestling. We'll have more time for life skills. I don't know if we'll do that. We're going to see how the summer goes. So this is really a test for us to see, because I think, here's what I think. I think ultimately where this goes, you find the high level coaches rather than the schools. You find the high level coaches around the country, around the world, that are like pushing tennis or wrestling, whatever that sport is, that are pushing life skill, that are pushing entrepreneurship, and you bring the school to them rather than bringing this to the school. The schools are going to reject this, as he's already seeing. It's not going to be accepted. It's going to be years of bureaucracy and fight. But you bring it to Joe at Spartan, I'm all in. I'm like, oh my God, now I got my own school. It's just like they figured it out. 2 hours.
How old's your son?
I've got 2 boys, 2 girls. One's heading off to college right now. The one we're talking about it just turned 16.
It's so I have a 16-year-old son also. He's finishing his sophomore year. And
Yeah.
it's kind of scary for us as parents, at least this conversation my wife and I have had, like unconventional education. Homeschooling is way more popular now than it ever was. And this is kind of what you're talking, like for next year, you're thinking about homeschooling your son, basically.
Well, I always thought about homeschooling because they grew up on a farm. We lived in Singapore, we lived in Japan, we lived in China, we lived in Vancouver, we've lived everywhere, but I didn't really have a toolbox. Like, how would I do it? It just seemed way too complicated with 4 kids. If I had this system, which I have not tested yet, we're going to test it this summer. If I had this system, hands down, I would have done this.
So these 2 hours, are watching videos? Are they with a live instructor over through a screen?
They've got access to live instructors. There's a lot of AI involved, so it's able to figure out. My understanding, it's able to figure out where the kid sits. The hardest part about it, I'm told, is the first few weeks. Maybe it's like 15 hours, might not be 2 weeks. 15 hours of work. They have to figure out where the kid is on the stuff they've already learned or not learned. Because if you don't have a solid foundation, if there's gaps in the stuff they're supposed to know by 10th grade, they've got to fill in those gaps first before they could build a house above it. So the beginning of this thing's going to be, all right, let's do a analysis of where you stand. Let's fill in the gaps, and then let's build on it for the rest of the summer.
Is the ideal student someone who is struggling, like under grade level, or is it someone who's at grade level and wants to excel?
Again, there's a girl in our office over here. Her dad is literally a rocket scientist. She's skipped most of high school, went right to college. She does not need this. She's fine, right? My kids, they could use a little leveling up. So, if you want to level up, at the very least, you'll get a good summer. I met 2 kids at Morgan Stanley years ago, 2 brothers. They were the smartest people I ever met. I was intrigued, and I said, how did you get to, like, were you just naturally smart? They said to me, our mom was a teacher. Our mom made us do the next year's work every summer. And I thought that was really interesting. And so this gives me an ability for my kids to do next year's work this summer. right? And then if I love it and if it's awesome and if my kids are bought in, we're not going to school next year. This is what we'll do.
Do you ever worry about, or do you ever like? There's a balance between I want my kids to be great. I want them to be great at everything they do, right? Just excel. I want, and in the same breath, I don't want to push them so hard that I damage a relationship. Like I know what it's like to be pushed, and if you push, I feel like if we push too hard as parents, there's a chance of resentment coming in.
Well, listen, I definitely push hard. My wife is the opposite end of the spectrum. She's much nicer to them than I am. I'm I'm trying to make them tougher. It's manufactured. It's not like we're not living in a favela in Brazil or in a slum in India, right? So it's manufactured at best. I still joke with them. I don't think, but again, I live in my own bubble. I don't think I'm as bad as I sound on TV. I really don't. They still get to eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner. They live in a climate controlled house. They have lots of time on their screens, which upsets me, but we work hard. We work hard. And for me, getting into a college, a university really changed my whole life. I was the first one and on my side of the family. So um, my son said something really interesting to me. He loves his new business. He's got this business. He buys and sells wrestling gear. Every day there's packages going out of mine. It's pretty unbelievable. And he's like, Dad, relax. In the whole scheme of things, does it really matter if I get a C? Over the next 80 years of my life, does it really matter? I go, yes, it fucking matters. I said, you do better. You get in a better school. You get in a better school. Maybe you meet some people that get you a better job. You get a better job. Maybe you meet a mate that's like everything. Now I was being dramatic in the other direction, just like he was being dramatic, but I don't know. Let's go for it. Let's go for it because we can. And if you said to me, I'm getting C's because grandma needs help and I'm working with her every day instead of studying, I'd say, okay, that's fine. If you're getting C's because you're spending time scrolling the internet on your, like, that's not fine,
Sure.
right?
You know, it's funny though, because ultimately, like, does that C matter? Like, if your son is a hardworking, if he's high character, if he, you know, if he has the same values, like, do I really care if it's an A or C? Now you're right. Like, which college? He's probably going to meet his spouse in whatever college he goes to, right? So, I mean, not definitely. Odds are though. And if it's a great college versus, you know, a party school, then it's probably a different caliber of spouse. And
I think it's a different outcome. I think, I joke with him and I'm like, you want to go to Flamingo University? like, what are we doing here, buddy? Because there's a bunch of kids in that favela, in that slum in India, that given the opportunity you have, living in the house you live in, would say, you're waste. Are you kidding me? That kid would stay up an extra hour at night and do homework to have a shot that you, so don't waste it. Don't waste your opportunity.
yeah, that's something that's it's hard to communicate to our kids, is that just by being born where we were born, like you've hit the genetic lottery, the country of
Yeah,
origin lottery, and don't waste that opportunity.
1000%. So look, why don't you have a bunch of people email you, text you, whatever.
Sure.
And if folks are interested in this summer thing, again, I don't have a dog in the fight other than I just want to help kids level up. It's just a pass through from this company. It's 50 days of hell, or if somehow your kid has more time off, it's 100 days. But I'm told from all the data, it is literally game changing. It'll add, I think they said it'll add 100 points to your SAT at minimum.
Is there a website they can go to?
Yeah, I have a link. You'll put it in there. But if you want to go, if you don't want to look at the Spartan Summer School link, Google 2 Hour Learning. That's the basis for this whole thing. It's called 2 Hour Learning.
Tell me about that 24-hour stare challenge you just mentioned.
Yeah, so years ago when I got up to the farm in Vermont, I was annoyed that we didn't have a staircase. I was so used to running stairs in New York that I needed a staircase. So at one of our death races, I think it was 2012, I had 1,400 giant stones delivered, some of them the size of Volkswagens. And before the start of the race, I asked 300 participants to build a stone staircase 1 mile long up the mountain. There was no chance they could. These 300 maniacs actually pulled it off and built a stone staircase up the mountain. You got to see photos of it. It's so unbelievable that they did this. And I've been running that staircase any chance I get up on the farm. We've done, 1,000 days on it. And I said, why don't we have one day a year, ideally during death week, where folks could come out and for 24 hours in a relay fashion or solo, just go up and down, up and down. I think there was a woman, don't quote me, that did like 32. I think she did 32 times up last year in that 24-hour period. It's pretty incredible. It's a mile up, a mile down. And it's a little over 1,000 foot of elevation gain. Pretty incredible.
32 miles of that's long. A marathon, 26.2.
I know. It's pretty incredible.
I love 24-hour events. World's Toughest, the old Spartan Ultra. I love 20. I think they're great.
Yeah, come out. Bring the camera and the microphone. We could do a whole week of. I mean, we could capture so much stuff. It'd be amazing.
You're inviting some biohackers out?
I am. I look, I used to lie to people in the early days of Spartan. I used to say, oh, I have a barbecue coming this weekend. Why don't you come up? And then I'd throw them into a race. And so for fun, I sent out this email to a whole bunch of people, a giant swath of people. And a bunch of them raised their hand and said, we'd love to come, for a weekend retreat on the farm. So they're getting snookered.
What are you gonna do as soon as they get there for first thing?
Oh, they're going right into the death race. They're just going right in.
They're never gonna come back, Joe.
Most people don't.
Do you have some repeats, some frequent flyers?
For the death race, for sure. Folks really want that skull. It's a $13 skull from CVS. I never quite understood what the fascination is, but I had a girl jump in front of a shotgun being fired to get her skull. Like, people will kill or die for this skull. It's crazy.
Yeah, that is crazy.
Crazy.
There's a lot of OCR has a lot of symbolism with skulls for some reason on medals, and Butter has the unholy or the Holy Grail with the skull. And I've always had the opinion, if you're in a fight with a guy, the person whose skull is showing probably lost the fight.
There you go.
I'm not every time I see a skull, I kind of like, but it means a lot.
It means a lot to a lot of people. I've had some crazy things happen over these little plastic skulls.
What else is going on the farm these days?
Well, obviously we got Death Camp, which is a bunch of kids, about 100 kids coming out. They're split into two sports, wrestling and soccer, super high level. They're waking up at 5 a.m. They're in the cold water. They're getting yelled at by drill instructors. They're running up and down the mountain. They're carrying rocks. They're eating really clean food. They're having a complete reprieve from the devices. And then they've got, 6+ hours of their sport. They'll probably learn the Constitution while they're there, a few poems. They get to bed early. All the standard stuff that kids experience at home.
You know what? Something you and I have not talked about, at least on air since it happened, is OCR in the Olympics. We texted about it a little bit. It's years of work. What are your thoughts on the way it shook out?
7 years of work. I think it's great. Would it be awesome if we could brand it in the Olympics? Yeah, but that's just the deal. Ironman doesn't get to brand triathlon in the Olympics, even though they are the popular triathlon globally. So I'm just happy that we set a vision, not just me, but like the entire community globally set a vision. We said it. We got press about it. And then one day I'm sitting there with the Prince of Monaco and we're signing an agreement. Like, it's just, you got to pinch yourself in this life when you say things that are big, audacious goals and they're ridiculous and you don't quite know how you're even going to do what you're saying you're going to do. And then they happen.
It's right now OCR is part of pentathlon. Are there plans or goals or to get it kind of its own thing eventually?
That would be stage 2. Let's check. Let's see the popularity. Let's see how well it does, how it plays on television, how much the athletes like it. And then the natural progression would be that's what would happen.
What do you say to some people who are like, oh, OCR in the Olympics, it doesn't matter, or it's not. We don't want it like. Not everyone's on board, like industry wide. It seems like.
I think that's just short-term thinking. I think anybody who squawks or complains about it doesn't have to go compete in the Olympics. They don't even have to watch it on TV. They just go to their local race and go have fun, and nothing changes for them. The advantage for those uninformed folks is it potentially sets it in stone for a long, long time. The Olympics have been around for a while. Pentathlon's been around for a while. And so if we want our sport to have longevity, the Olympics is, fortunately or unfortunately, the big show that happens every 4 years. And there's lots of, sponsorship and partnership dollars that come along with that. There's a lot of things that are positive that happen. Can you complain and say, well, it's a short distance, it's a different, of course you can, just like Ironman and women will complain that the Olympic distance format of triathlon is short and sprint and this and that in the Olympics, but it does give the sport you love, the distance you love, longevity. So suck it up, Buttercup. Either be part of the solution or the problem, and let's keep moving forward.
I like to talk.
There were probably a lot of people at Kodak that were like, these copy machines are ridiculous. I don't know why people are like, and complain. And then Kodak was no more. It's gone. So like, you've got to be forward thinking. You've got to be malleable. If you're not changing, you're dying.
Yeah, there's nothing worse than blowing an early lead, like Kodak, for example.
Yeah.
I like to talk about curling. I don't care about curling at all for 3 months, 3 years, and 6 months of my life. But man, Winter Olympics come around, I'm literally waking up at like 2 a.m. to watch USA versus Sweden. And I love curling for that little window of time every 4 years. So
It's funny, right? It's fun. It's funny. It will be, it'll be part of the big show. It'll give us some exposure. Relevance and exposure is important. Yeah, I think it's short-sighted on anybody that's complaining.
you mentioned big goals, achieving big goals. Have you ever dealt with when you're setting goals in your life, if you set them too low? Have you ever done that where you set a goal too low and you get it and you're like, oh man, that's not what fulfilling I should have gone. That was too easy. Like I should have gone bigger.
The only regret, I don't have a lot of regrets in life, and I don't set goals that are too low. I am such an optimistic person that all my goals are ridiculous and impossible to achieve, but I strived, because even if I miss, it's still a big win. The only one I'm upset about, I wanted more kids. When I met my wife, we talked about 7 kids. We have 4. Our last one got sick in the hospital in the first few weeks, and I was just so thankful to God that she was okay that I said, well, maybe, I don't want to risk it, but yeah, that was one where we shot too low.
Do you think that informs some of your programs now, Spartan School and Kids Death Camp?
Maybe I'm chasing just to be around more kids. I just, me, I have so much fun in this life, and I want to change so many lives, and kids are so much fun to change because, it's early enough that just a slight change in trajectory, and, they're president of the United States. So
what are some other big goals Spartan has, or big things you guys are working on for the rest of the year, 2025?
well, we're through the survival stage, which is awesome. It was, as you know, 38 months of hell. We were literally eating dogs to survive. We got people back to events. I'm just blown away.
Wait, you weren't literally eating dogs. Let's just in case someone clips that out. No dogs were eaten.
I do love dogs, by the way. I do love dogs. I am referring to Shackleton's story of being stuck in the ice during his expedition and having to eat his own dogs to survive with him and his men. So the analogy I often use about what it felt like to go through what we just went through was we had to eat all the dogs and probably some of the wood from the boat as well, but we made it. We got through stage 1, which was survival. Stage 2 was let's get people back to events. We've checked that box. People are back in massive numbers, in some cases bigger than what we saw pre-pandemic, and continuing on that trajectory, which is great. and now we're just cleaning up the books. We still got, some outstanding bills here and there, but the numbers are rolling in, so we're able to clean up a lot of that mess, which is great. And then hopefully, I would say by year end, we're back on full offense, which will be all kinds of things. Hopefully acquisitions again and growth and all kinds of things that we were doing pre-pandemic.
So looking forward to 2025, if you had to compare the plans for 2025, does that look like 2019? Does it look like 2012?
Yeah, 2025 is shaping up to look more like 2019. Yeah, that's a good analogy. Yeah.
How are you talking about acquisitions? How are some of those other brands, Tough Mudder, the trail running?
I just got a report this morning. I mean, let me preface it by saying we haven't had a chance to invest in any of it because of what we just went through. But I got a report this morning. Some of the numbers are great. Like certainly in the US, Tough Mudder numbers are really starting to explode. So all the decisions were the right decisions. The timing was absolutely the worst timing with all this stuff. Like you couldn't have worse timing. But as we've got more and more cash to deploy and we can lean more on the offense, you're going to see all these things pop. So super exciting.
That's cool. We talked about summer school. Is there anything else you want to plug while I got you?
Summer school, death camp, death race, stairway to Sparta. We got World's Toughest Mudder later in the year. Croatia World Championships. Everybody, we should create. Why don't you help me create a wheel of death? We'll call it.
All right, I'm writing this down.
Write this down. Let's create a wheel of death where people could spin the dial digitally, and we'll see what it lands on. Does it land on the Croatia World Championship, OCR WC? Does it land on Sparta? Does it land on Morzine, France?
Okay.
You know what I mean? And maybe we give something away, like you roll the dice and it's an honor system, but wherever it lands, that's the race you're going to.
And you got to go.
You got to go. And
gotta go.
We'll give you a free entry or something. I don't know. We'll come up with something cool.
We talked about death more than I've ever talked about on a podcast with you right now. I unironically enjoy going to funerals because I think they are a great reminder for all of us that we are not guaranteed tomorrow. Like I have a friend who's probably 52, super fit, super healthy, and he almost died. He had a heart attack. Someone was blocked 100%. The other was blocked 60, 70%. You look at him, he is as fit as you would want to be. Like we are not promised anything. I think it's good for us. We're joking about it, but it's good to we're not promised tomorrow. None of us are.
When I was in 10th grade, 9th grade, my mother was mad at me because I got thrown out of school for selling fireworks. And I don't know if anybody knows this story. And my mom said, "You're now going to Catholic school," which was an hour away from Ithaca, New York. It was in Elmira. And so she drove me an hour because there was no bus nobody from Ithaca was going an hour to Elmira. The extra 10 minutes from the highway to the school would have cost her another 20 minutes. So she found a funeral home that she would drop me off at every morning by the highway. So every morning I would get out, to stay out of the weather and wait for the local bus. I would go in that funeral parlor. The owners let me go in. And for 20 or 30 minutes, just look at a new dead body every day. And it's probably why when I get asked every day, like, how's your day? I'm like, I'm alive. Because for an entire year, I just looked at a dead body every morning, a new one. And it was it was a reminder, like you said, of how great. And I never really thought about it until I'm telling you this right now, that year probably consciously and subconsciously changed everything, right? Like I'm not dead. I'm not in that casket that I'm looking at. What can I possibly complain about today?
Amen.
That's it. All right. Well, you're awesome. I love when I get to see you. Let me know if you want to brave the wild in Vermont, and we'll have some fun.
Joe DeSena, you can sign up for your next Spartan race at Spartan.com right now. Joe DeSena, thanks much.
Thanks, bud.